Our next work of art is also a martyrdom. This is by Francisco de Zurbarán, and the title is Saint Serapion. Now you might hear it pronounced Saint Serapion or Saint Serapion. It's the same figure. So what are we looking at here? Well, I told you, another martyrdom. This specific figure, Saint Serapion, is in extreme contrast to what we saw in the loud and over-the-top Italian Baroque. Instead, what we have is this very soft, quiet, contemplative, deathly still image of a man who has been tied up and is about to be decapitated. What? Saint Serapion was alive during the Third Crusade, so around the late 1100s, 1196-ish. And he was a monk who followed the crusading knights to the Near East, and he rescued Christian prisoners and offered himself in exchange for some of the captives. He was killed after he was caught preaching the gospel to Muslims. And how was he killed? He was tied to a tree, which is what we see here, beaten and tortured, and then he was decapitated. And that is what we're seeing here. You see that welt on his forehead? See his mouth open as he's gasping for air after he's been beaten? This is not the idealized pretty boy images of the Renaissance. Instead, we see a man who is tired, exhausted, beaten, and the moments before he is executed. The silence in this scene is almost deafening. The image is meant as a martyrdom and as a image of contemplation or meditation for devotional purposes. It was commissioned for a funerary chapel in Seville. So again, the idea of dying and dying with one's faith firmly in line. And here we see characteristics of the Baroque with the diagonal lines from that tree. Even his head hangs at a diagonal line. Look at the beautiful folds of this bright white cloak falling in that diagonal line. We also see tenebrism, right? We barely can see what is behind him. We have this beautiful light on him as if coming from above, coming from God himself. A Baroque moment? Yeah, I mean, it's not the moment when his head is severed, but we're seeing the moment of his martyrdom. In fact, some students often will talk about how his head is at a really kind of extreme angle. Now, you can argue that he's tired, he's been beaten, and his head is to the side, but this extreme angle could also be Zurbarán's kind of foreshadowing of his head being severed from his body. So again, all of these elements, all of these details we've seen in the Italian Baroque, but so different and quiet and subtle. Some students also ask me about this. What's this? Looks like a piece of paper pinned to the canvas. It actually is the signature and title of the artwork. This is a common thing that we see in Baroque paintings, not just Spanish Baroque, but Baroque in general. We see artists like to do these plays on illusion or plays with reality. So we have our painting, and then it looks as if there is a piece of paper with Zurbarán and Saint Serapion on the paper that's been pinned to the canvas. But in reality, it's just paint. It's also on the same canvas. So this is a very common tool we see in the Baroque of playing with dimension, light, and shadow, and reality. And because I like these things so much, I want to show you a few more. These were extremely popular, these kind of Baroque illusionist paintings. Here we're looking at a ribbon board and looks like a cupboard that's been jammed with some papers. The ribbon board has some newspapers, some bits and bobs stuck in, but these are both paintings. The idea is that you would have it hanging up in your house, and your friends come over and they're like, "Oh, look, you have a new ribbon board." Oh, and then oh, oh, it's fake. Oh, and you're like, ah, yeah, yeah, gotcha, gotcha. Or like here's some more. So another ribbon board, and you're like, oh, look at that beautiful string of pearls. Oh, it's a fake. No. This one here is one of my favorites because it's playing on even more illusion. So it's a painting that looks like a piece of sculpted rock, and that sculpted rock then has on it a piece of paper, and the fly has landed on that paper. I wish I could show you more. Here's another one. This is at the National Gallery in Washington, D.C., and it's specifically Spanish artist, and it's two women at the window. So we're supposed to understand this to be a open window in a house, and we see that the shutter has opened, and we see this beautiful young woman, and she's very curiously looking out at us with this sweet smile. And then behind her, we can assume that to be either her nursemaid or a servant in the house, and she's more kind of coyly, shyly, kind of hiding her face from us. It's so fun.